All right, I'm Adam. This is Dan, and we are here to talk about Alien Covenant. Jesus Christ. I'm going to start off by saying that I'm not the biggest fan of Prometheus. I remember when Prometheus came out, last brought the Blu-ray to my house and we watched it. And I remember he saw it in theaters, and I didn't see it in theaters. Even though I worked at the movie theater, I could have saw shit for free. I remember he saw it at the theaters. I remember when he first saw it at the theaters, I remember him not liking Prometheus. I remember him having the exact same complaints and everything that like other people and like critics and everything had with the movie. But then like he then bought it when it came out on Blu-ray, and then he's like, oh, I watched it a few more times, and like now that I know like the backstory and I watched it a few more times, he like actually started growing an appreciation for it. So I remember when he brought it over to my house and we watched it, I remember I sat there and I was like, this movie is slow pace, it's boring, the characters are stupid and underdeveloped, it's not really scary, and it was just a mess. And
then we saw Alien Covenant,
which
retroactively makes Prometheus a much better movie.
Yeah.
Not because the story ties in and it makes you understand things better, but because Alien Covenant does all those same things much worse.
I mean, it's true. I mean, like, I went into this movie, like, because all the trailers, and is showing aliens, and that's what you're seeing, is alien, and it looks like a horror movie. Like, Prometheus was also, I think that was one of the problems with Prometheus, is Prometheus was advertised as a horror movie also, originally. But then, like, you start realizing, oh, this isn't a horror movie per se. It's more of a sci-fi film. And then, like, this movie, they were advertising it, and it was like, they kept showing the alien, and then you're like thinking, I thought, like, okay, it's going to be a horror movie. But then, like the first half of this movie is just boring as shit.
Like, here's something that I've been realizing is Prometheus was slow, and it had, you know, a lot of parts where, like, it should have been a horror movie, but it wasn't. But I will say the one major difference, I said Alien Covenant takes all the problems from Prometheus and does them worse.
Yeah.
The one difference is the slowness, because even though it's a longish movie, it's faster paced, but that's because everything is rushed. It doesn't give time for anything. Prometheus was slow, but it did have build up to things. The payoff wasn't great, but at least there was something there. This movie doesn't give you the build up, so anything that would be a payoff isn't paying off to anything. It's just happening.
Like at least when Prometheus, when it got to its climax, at least like at that point
it felt like a climax. Good. Yeah,
it felt white knuckled. It felt actually kind of intense. It wasn't great, but it was at least building towards something.
Yeah, it's like I said, like it felt like a climax. Like there was something there that was earned.
Yeah, but this movie just starts off with just, here's these characters, we don't know anything about them. James Franco's in it apparently for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. That was the most bizarre thing. Is, you know, spoilers for anyone watching. It literally happens in the first minute of the movie. So James Franco technically plays a character in this movie who dies within a minute, and that's it. Like, they show a video of him, so you get that the character was him, and then you never see him again.
No, you don't. Well, now here's the odd part, was because that was one of my complaints after we saw the movie was, okay, apparently they had James Franco, but they didn't bother really advertising him or using him. And I thought to myself, well, he's friends with Dan McBride. He probably showed up on set one day. They're like, hey, you want to be this little part? Actually, they released these videos on YouTube, okay, that I was not aware of.
I heard about that too. I didn't watch it,
and
but
apparently one of them is a one that's called, I think it's called Last Supper or The Last Meal, and it's the crew having one last meal before they go into their 7 years of hypersleep. And I don't know how long it is. I didn't watch it. I think it's like 10 to 20 minutes long or something like that. But if you watch that, they actually set up every character like the way you should. Like, and then, like, the whole idea for me is just like, well, then why didn't they just make this the first 20 minutes of the movie?
Yeah.
Because actually, the movie actually starts off with you seeing the creation of David, which is, I don't know how many years ago.
Which was frustrating because, again, spoiler, sorry, David does show up in the movie, like, halfway through.
Yeah.
You don't see him again after the beginning for at least an hour. Minimum, an hour.
Maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Before he shows up. And, like, But that's the thing. It's like the movie starts off and like all of a sudden like some shit happens. The ship ends up getting hit by a solar flare and fucking people end up accidentally dying and they gotta fucking repair the ship. And like that moment when people are getting killed and you realize that something bad is happening here, it's like even that I couldn't enjoy and sit there and say like, oh yeah, this is intense because I didn't know anybody.
Yeah, I didn't care.
Because I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, okay, I guess people are waking up. I guess they got.
And then when they are awake and they take care of the problem. Again, this is not a spoiler. It happens in the first 5 minutes. So they take care of the problem.
Yeah.
There's some deaths of people we literally never meet. And then they take care of the problem, and you start seeing the crew interactions. You start seeing all of the things that should establish characters and make you care. And again, and this is where I'm talking about them being rushed, because they show these interactions and they show, there's tensions now and, things are rough, which again, you understand. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. Like, that's one thing I'll say is, I mean, there's plot holes in the movie, but, most of the character stuff at least makes sense. You just don't care about it. But, they show that there's tension and then nothing ever happens.
No.
They show that, some of the characters don't trust each other, some of them don't like the way they do things, and then it's just...
Well, like,
do it anyway.
The one thing was that, like, they end up counting how many casualties they have, which I think it's like one crew, because I think James Franco's the only one who dies.
Yeah, he's the only crew member that dies.
And then they're like 45 colonists die also,
and
apparently.
Like a certain number of the embryos.
2 or 3 embryos or something got damaged or died. And it's like, they talk about this, but like no one seems to, I don't want to say care, but like no one really seems to be all that devastated by any of this.
Yeah, like,
and that's the thing, except for the wife of James Franco, like the woman who's supposed to be his wife, which that's another thing I want to talk about, is that apparently all these people are couples, but I didn't know who was whose like significant other. Like, Danny McBride at one point is asking about if his wife is okay, and I'm like, I don't know who your wife is, so I don't know what I'm supposed to think here.
I mean, it does become obvious soon after, but he just says it. It's not established.
There's supposed to be this couples thing, but like in the movie, there's no really interaction with the couple except for the guy who ends up becoming the new captain, because apparently James Franco was the captain.
Yeah.
He was apparently.
By the way, given the character that James Franco plays in every movie, this mission was doomed to begin with. Let's not lie. Okay? I haven't even seen Pineapple Express. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every other James Franco character. The mission was doomed anyway.
Like, if he didn't die, he was going to get his arm caught.
Like the lady's talking about, we had a plan. We were going to build a log cabin on a lake. Build it! Like, James Franco was going to build something with his hands? No, he wasn't.
The new guy who becomes the captain, I guess he was second in command, he becomes the captain, right? And he is talking to his wife, and he explains how, like, James Franco got the position anyway, how they passed up. He's even though a crew member of him and a friend of his has just died, he's more or less talking about how he's now the captain and how he's upset because he's not sure anyone's going to listen to him. And he talks about how he got passed up for the role of captain anyway because apparently for his religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Which they don't go into, what those are.
That's what I was talking about earlier. It's like, okay, so you set up this conflict. They literally come out and tell you the conflict, which is usually a writing no-no. Yeah. But okay, you set up this conflict, and it could be an interesting thing. It's not something that really comes up in the Alien universe. It's like religion.
The whole idea of them setting that up is no payoff because it doesn't go anywhere. And it's the same thing I felt. This movie is the same thing I felt with Prometheus, which the first time I viewed from Prometheus, I'm sitting there looking at it going, there's got to be shit missing. Like there's got to be scenes that explain some of this stuff better. There's got to be things that got cut. And that's the way I feel about this film. Is the same way. It's like, why do you set up a captain who is afraid to be the captain because he's not sure people are going to listen to him because of his religious beliefs, but yet there's no follow-up to this whatsoever.
My biggest problem with the movie, all they could tell was that the atmosphere is breathable and there must be some sort of plants to sustain it. They did not know where those plants came from, what they were like, or what the microbes sustaining them would be like. And they walk out with no protection.
No protection. The whole thing I like is like, okay, we're on an alien planet. We don't know what any of this stuff is. What should we do? Let's poke it.
Yeah,
what was that?
That's right. They literally
the one guy literally pokes it.
Like the one guy that gets infected, it's an accident. He doesn't see it.
Yeah.
The other guy literally walks
pokes.
up and just said the first act, maybe 2 acts of the movie. Not that great, kind of slow. There's a lot of stuff going on you don't care about. Mm-hmm. But they eventually get, as they're on the planet, they eventually then run into the character of David.
Yeah.
And when he shows up, there's glimmers of good stuff here. Now, both David and the character of Walter are played by Michael Fassbender, so he's playing 2 roles in the movie. Watching Michael Fassbender weirdly act off of himself, as strange as it is really good. Like, the dialogue between those two is good, and I liked it. And, Michael Fassbender is a really great actor. So that
as soon as David shows up, I know right away, okay, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
I guess, not every Alien film, it was just the aliens being the dicks. There was always somebody in there.
Yeah.
And it's as soon as David shows up, who was a bad guy in the first Prometheus film, as soon as he shows up, it's okay, I see where we're going here.
Yeah, and you made a good point, because there is always someone in the Alien movies that, it's not just the monster, there's someone, you can't say human, because in the first movie it was the robot again. But, there is always someone. That's the other thing, is the big twist. If you've watched any movie with, 2 characters, whether they're played by the same guy or twins or whatever, if you've ever watched any movie with 2 characters who look the same, and you don't get this twist coming, that's your fault. The movie's not clever. You just don't know anything.
No, you don't.
Sorry.
One thing I will say is that it's not that Dan McBride does a bad job of acting in this movie.
No.
He doesn't. But the point is that you wasted Danny McBride.
Yeah.
Because you could have literally got anybody to play this role.
Yeah.
Instead, you go out and you get a guy who's actually genuinely could actually be funny. Mm-hmm. And granted, I wasn't expecting him to be funny. I was expecting him to be comic relief in a way. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't I was the whole movie's he's going to be the standout of the movie. But that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
He just kind of blends in with everybody else.
Yeah, he does the best with what he's got. And I will say, he's the one I enjoyed the most of the human characters. Mm-hmm. But again, it's like what you said. It's because it's Danny McBride. He's charismatic.
What did you think of the Xenomorphs?
So the 2 proto-Xenomorphs, which, there's 2 of them. They're the same creature though. They're not different in themselves, but
they're white.
Yeah, they're these weird white things.
Here's my biggest complaint with it is that they're all CG. Mm-hmm. Which pisses me off because you have a movie that was made in the 70s, late 70s, and then Aliens, which was made in the 80s, and they used suits, people in a costume, and it looked good. I don't know why you didn't just go back to those. Yeah. I could see using CGI
you use some things, but you want it crawling around on the ceilings and
I don't see why everything has to be CGI. But here's my problem with the protomorphs, or whatever you want to call them, is that when they are born, they, to me, look like a raw chicken. And here's the funny part, is that if you got the Alien quadrilogy box set like I do, and you watch every little piece of fucking documentary footage on there, okay? H.R. Geiger, who designed the Xenomorph, designed the Alien, the only thing he didn't design in the original Alien was the Alien puppet as a baby. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing he didn't do. Why? Because he made one that was so horrendously bad that he thought it was bad, and Ridley Scott laughed at it so much that they got someone else then to do it. Because he was literally so strung out and stressed out that he couldn't do it anymore. And what did that look like? In his words, in this documentary, a raw chicken. So in a way, this movie is paying tribute to H.R. Geiger, but in the worst way.
Yeah.
Because they're bringing what he deemed an abomination to life, because that's what they fucking look like when they're first born.
Yeah.
Is they just look like a rubber chicken. So a white raw chicken. And so when it starts attacking the girl who's in the lab too, I'm laughing. Because that's all I could think of is H.R. Geiger going, it looks like a raw chicken. That's all I could think of. My biggest
problem with the CG in particular, the CG on the spaceships and the space scenes, that's okay. It's not top of the line. It's not anything you're going to talk about for time to come. But that's fine. It blends well.
Yeah.
When the Xenomorphs, of any color, any stripe, are around, you can tell it's CG.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
And the weird thing is that you can tell it's CG regardless of what the environment around them is. Even if the rest of the environment is CG, if they're standing on a spaceship and it's CG because it's flying through the air, they still stand out. They still look like they're not real, even though the ship isn't real either. That should be the time when they're the most natural looking, but it's not.
Point is, the xenomorph design is not... The regular xenomorph design is fine. The protomorphs are terrible.
And the CGI is even more terrible.
Is really terrible for the protomorphs. The regular xenomorph at times looks pretty good, but most of the time it looks terrible. The one thing I will say about the protomorphs is the fact that I know people and I've seen people defend the way they look as of, well, it's a different breed. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's a different breed. It doesn't change the fact that it looks like shit.
Yeah, that doesn't make it look good.
It doesn't make me go, oh, okay. Like, no, it still looks like shit.
Like I was saying the same thing, but I wasn't saying that made it look good. No. Just that I can accept that it looks different from a regular one.
Okay. I'm going to name the one right off the bat, which even people I know who are defending the movie, when I brought this up, couldn't defend it, is you have a ship that's a colony ship. Okay, has over 2,000 people on it. You send a small group of the crew on the one ship that you could use to get down there.
Yeah.
And then when that ship blows up, they have no other way to get down there. Like we touched on this before, but I don't like that they made Dave is basically the reason that the Xenomorphs exist.
No, I'm not a fan of that.
Because the reason to me that doesn't make any sense, or at least to me, the reasoning behind it is that he made the Xenomorphs the way they are to be more efficient. That's what he talks about, and that's when you see like how he made the face huggers. I mean, they don't show how, but they show face huggers and shit like that. And he talks about how he went on and tested until he got what he deemed the perfect specimen. And I'm sitting there going, okay, so he created the face huggers to jump on a person's face and plant the xenomorph embryo into him, and then it gives birth to xenomorphs.
But then, he hasn't had anyone to use them on.
Yeah, then, but the one part I'm sitting there going, okay, but the spores that someone just nudged into gently that puffs out the cloud of smoke that has the small organisms in it that eventually go through your nostril, your ear, your mouth, any opening in your body, and can implant the protomorph in it. Why is that not more efficient? That seems like a more efficient way.
There's literally no. David is obviously evil. There is no reason to do what he says.
That was
none.
That was my thing, because I'm sitting there going like, okay, like the captain just basically discovered that this protomorph just killed one of his crew. It's standing in front of David. David apparently is making some kind of connection with it. The fucking captain shoots the protomorph.
As he should.
And
the one good decision he makes.
He sees that David is obviously clearly very upset about this, and he tells David that he needs to tell him everything that's going on, and then he threatens to do bodily harm to David. And then David's like, okay, come on. I'll take you down to the basement. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, there's not one moment where like the captain's like, I'm going to go tell my crew I'm going down there with you. Or maybe he
doesn't get on the radio.
Maybe he should alarm the crew that like this monster was just in here.
Yeah, this monster was in here and David was trying to make friends with it. So what he said about it being safe, because he did say that earlier. There's a place to say, so what he said about being safe, A, not true, B, David not trying to help us.
I'll just go with my overall thoughts of it. And the way I'll end it like this is that, like, I saw Prometheus and I thought it was a fucking mess. I thought the characters weren't developed. I thought the fucking stuff didn't make any sense. It was boring. It was slow paced. And no matter how many viewings and learning about the behind the scenes of that movie, no matter how many times I saw it, I never grew more of appreciation for it. It's still the same thing. It's just a mess. And somehow Alien Covenant, that's the thing. Prometheus had the one thing I said it had going for it, which was potential. So I was actually looking forward to a sequel to it. Even though I didn't like Prometheus that much, I was looking forward to a sequel. And then this came out. Like, fan service? Like, isn't really Scott's like, hey, you're complaining that there weren't fucking xenomorphs in the last week? Here you go. Choke on them here. But yet they're not really what the movie's about. The movie should just be called, like, just fucking Michael Fassbender the movie. Because that's what it was. Basically, the point is that this movie is very long. It's very slow. It's not very long. It's only 2 hours and 20 minutes, but God does it fucking feel like it's longer than that. It's slow paced. The fucking characters are dumb. It's the same exact problems I had with Prometheus, only at least parts of Prometheus led up to something. Like I said, like Prometheus is boring, but when you get to that ending, that climax, it works at least a little bit. This movie, it doesn't work. even when we got to the climax is so boring. It's so unimaginative too. Basically, how do we get rid of this alien that just suddenly that got on board our ship? Airlock. That's how we got rid of him all the other times.
And there's a scene with a crane where it grabs the alien, which is like the loader in Aliens.
Yeah. This movie borrows heavily on other scenes from other alien films that basically did these scenes much better. The only things I'll say that the bright spots of the movie is Michael Fassbender, and watching the scenes he's in, he's literally the only good part of this movie. Everything else to me is just horror movie trope bullshit. You know who's gonna die. You don't give a fuck about anybody. You don't know anything about anybody except for Michael Fassbender. He's the only one you actually know anything about.
Yeah.
And by the time the movie comes to a close, you see the twist coming like fucking an hour before this. You know what was gonna happen. Overall, I give the movie. I know people are gonna hate me for this, but I'm giving the movie a 4 out of 10. Because I think it's actually slightly below average. I originally wanted to say it was an average film, but the more you and I were talking about it, I realized just how slightly below average this is. So, and I know that's going to piss off some people I know because I gave Suicide Squad a 7.
So, I'm kind of in the same boat. If you had asked me 2 days ago whenever we watched it.
Yeah.
If you had asked me then, I probably would have said 5. I might have even been generous and given it 6.
Yeah.
I am going to lower it now, probably to a 4. I would say 4. And honestly, the only reason I'm even letting it be that high is because the one thing I will say, other than the Michael Fassbender parts, he really is good in this movie.
Yeah.
But other than him, the movie is beautiful looking.
Ridley Scott knows how to shoot a movie.
Yeah. Again, outside of the CGI, which I deduct 2 points for, but the scenery and we keep saying, Prometheus at least tried. That movie wanted to be something and it knew what it wanted to be. It didn't accomplish it. It's not a good movie, but it had effort. This movie wanted to be several things, failed at all of them, and it is just bad.
I guess, to me, it's like the movie was trying to give you, okay, we're going to give you a little bit of Prometheus, a little bit of Alien, we're going to try to mix them together.
We're going to give you a little sci-fi, a little horror.
A little horror, a little sci-fi, and we're going to give you the best parts of these, but instead they just gave us the worst parts of them. Yeah. This is probably the worst Alien film. I'd put it below Alien versus Predator Requiem. I think I enjoyed
that is the one thing that I will well, not the only thing, but I will disagree with you there. I don't like it better than that movie, or I don't like that movie better, but I would put them about equal. Requiem.
Requiem you can at least watch and enjoy in a bad way.
I mean, I'll give you that. It's better in a cheesy bad movie way, but in terms of execution of your movie, I'd put them about equal, honestly.
All right, so that's gonna be the end of this. So again, 4 out of 10, below average, not very good. Don't waste your money seeing it.
Yeah.
All right, this was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to do this. Maybe we'll be back next week with Pirates.
Maybe
we want to go see Pirates.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, thanks for watching.
Later.